Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. I have recently gone through a whole bunch of changes, personal life mostly, but it also impacts my business because, as I say many times over, our personal lives, our business lives, they're not as separate as we like to think they are. But ultimately, I have moved countries. I have moved from Canada back to the US. If you can't hear it in my voice, I am of the United States originally, but I've been in Canada for the last 15 years. We have just moved. But between that and a couple of weeks ago, I just had the most blessed time to be able to spend a week or near 4 days, I guess, with an amazing community of Catholic business owners and leaders, and just really got to talk about my faith, live my faith, go to mass every single morning, and talk about business. So these are like two of my most favorite things to talk about. The only other one I didn't get to talk about as much was food, but we still talked about that, I'm sure. But I got to talk about those things and just to be around people, that made me say, ooh, I got to step it up, both in my business and in my faith, and just help me to grow, to learn, expand my network, and all the things, all the good things that a great community around you does for you. As I am reestablishing myself in this new community of mine, it's bringing top of mind those things that are important about a community. As a leader, you are responsible for guiding all of your team, for guiding the direction of your business, and kind of being there for everybody all the time. And I have said for many years that leadership is a lonely business. It is lonely at the top. And leaders especially, like, number one, everybody needs community, but leaders especially need community because they have so much weight that they're carrying. They're not only carrying the weight of, I have to run this business, but they're carrying the weight of, oh, I've got this whole team around me and I need to help them develop and grow and make sure they have a paycheck at the end of the week and all of those things. And not all of us are great at boundaries. Sometimes we tend to take on the problems of our team as well. So here we are, we've got even more weight than we're even designed to carry. We need community. We need people that we can talk to, that we can unload some of our packaging, our packages that we're carrying, whether they're ours or something that we shouldn't be carrying at all. But we also need people to challenge us, to help us grow, maybe ask us questions that are going to make us dig a little deeper. I just wanted to share with you some tips and techniques for realizing, hey, I need a community, or I need a different community, or I would like to have a better community around me. Well, there is a statement that gets tossed around a lot. Jim Rohn is credited with it, but you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. I think I first heard this back in high school. For the most part, I was, the rule follower and all that. But for a short period of time, I fell into maybe not a great crowd, not a terrible crowd, but they were definitely a crowd, maybe not headed in the right direction. And so I fell in there. And my band director, actually, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're getting yourself involved in the wrong people, and said something to the tune of, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around. It started to stick with me, but I don't think fully stuck with me. But this is where you kind of get into, okay, who am I hanging around? Inevitably, and I guess I'm going to hope that you're hanging around your family. That is definitely one layer of your community. You're also probably hanging around your team and your coworkers. Those are people you're around. But what I want to talk about is growing this intentional community, because while we all love our families, maybe they're not the community that's going to challenge us. And while we all love our coworkers, if you're the leader, it's not likely that you're finding the support and the challenge that an intentional community is going to give you. But I'm going to give 3 tips, 3 B things that are going to help us or help you establish that community, choose that community, and start to grow it. The first tip is to be intentional. I've touched on it already. When you set any goal at all, you have to have intentional action behind pushing yourself toward that goal. If you're thinking about, I want a better community, it's very helpful to define, okay, what am I looking for in a community? So, give an example, when I'm looking at my new community that I'm in, my new living community, I want to have a faith-filled community around me. I love my church community back where I just was living, and I want to establish that here. Intentionally, I need to get myself involved or start to reach out to people who also have that faith background or faith intention that I also want to have, or I do have, or I want to challenge myself toward. Being very intentional is important. So if, just practically speaking, if you're not sure what you want, it's helpful to create a list of, these are the types of communities that I want. That's one part of my community. Another part is, I run my own business and I work with businesses. So I really would like a business focused community or entrepreneurs. So finding a place where I'm going to have that too. So that is going to be another intentional community I'm going to seek out. And, there might be many others. Maybe you've got, reading as a priority. Seek out other readers, go to the library more, meet people there. If people don't talk that much at the library, probably, but reaching out and finding those communities and reaching out and being intentional for what are the types of community I want to build around me. Obviously, if you're a leader, finding that leader community or finding an area where you're going to get that support. And it might be like a one-off sort of, one person that is a member of many of your community that can be that support, like a coach or a mentor or a good friend that also is in business. So those are some very intentional things you might want to drive after. The second one, this one I find myself saying to my kids a lot, but be a joiner. All right. I've noticed about myself versus my children is that I'm quite the joiner. Being a joiner is easy for me. However, my children, and really I even see it in my family now that I'm much closer to them, it is a bit more challenging sometimes to be a joiner. We have to be comfortable and start to say, I'm going to do that, and bring ourselves kind of together in order to join things so we can, intentionally chase after that community and stretch our network a bit. So as much as it might be difficult, you might have some thoughts that get in the way. It can be very helpful to be a joiner because that is going to help you meet more people. You might have to join a couple of different things before you find your right community because you don't really know what it's like until you start and you get into it. So being a joiner can really help you discover the community you want to have, because you might be joining a great big organization, but then find your people within it. So being a joiner, joining committees, joining your parish, joining a Chamber of Commerce, joining a book club, joining those sorts of activities is going to help you to find the right people, especially if you're establishing yourself in a new place like I am, or if you are just really trying to branch out because you're like, all I see are the people I live with and the people I work with. If you're stuck in that, which I know so many leaders who are, we start putting our head down. We're saying, I got to get my family sorted. I've got to get my business sorted. And so all I'm going to do is focus on those things. Be a joiner, join something outside of those things because it'll be good for you and it'll be good for this community that will give you the support or the oxygen. So putting your oxygen mask on to then be a better helper and leader for your family and your business. And the third one is be selective. This one, in my little joiner self, is a bit more challenging for me. So maybe you're probably going to find that you're either a joiner naturally or you're selective naturally. So somewhere in between is the right balance in this. And that being selective is understanding that not every business group is going to be for you. Not every club is going to be for you. Not every church group is going to be good for you. So being selective about, again, who it is or what it is you'd like to surround yourself with is going to be very helpful. And that can look like many different ways. And it goes really back to the first one that I mentioned, which is that being intentional. So going back, sitting and thinking through who and what type of people do I want to surround myself with? And it might take some testing it out. But, as you start to get involved in a group, you want to start to say, is this group helping me? Is this group stretching me, challenging me in a good way? Is this time that I'm spending with them, is it fruitful? And am I getting what I need from it? So understanding what those needs are is a huge first step in that selection. So if you're trying to figure out what those needs might be, it can be helpful to go back to your values. So I did a podcast a long, long time ago now, which feels like a long time, probably not that long, about your personal strategy. So you want to understand what your personal values are and what your personal strategy is, really way even before you do your business strategy, because that's going to help. But this is also part of that. This understanding your values, and you want to find people with similar values that are going to challenge you to grow in virtue, challenge you to dig in deeper with those values, and challenge you to maybe stretch your boundaries in a good way. So you want to find the right people, and not just fall in with anybody just for the human connection, which some of us have a tendency to do. So, and that really goes back to that Jim Rohn statement of you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. So while we may hang around our family and our coworkers the most, that intentional community that we're building is going to be really where we're going to find our value and where we're going to be able to kind of grow that community. It's going to help us to drive more. So what if this is all hard? What if this feels challenging for you? What if you live in a very isolated area and there just aren't communities? So that brings its own challenge around. So sometimes you have to look outside of your geographical region and reach out to maybe an online or a global group where you've got some smaller groups that are available within it. I know personally, the conference I was at is a Scent conference. So Scent Ventures is the group that I'm part of. And that has been a huge benefit to me, where I've been able to speak with people all over the United States, some people over in Europe, and just being able to connect with all of those people who have a similar value of their Catholic faith, as well as a business value and entrepreneurship. So they challenge me in such a good way that I'm not necessarily going to find in my small town community that I live in. Being not afraid to stretch beyond your geographical boundaries as well, it can be critically important to making sure that you get that community that you want. I talked about this back in I think it was my 50th episode that I did, where I have an intention to build a community around this podcast. So I've not yet established it because I'm still trying to structure what that would look like. But this community would encourage education. So growing in your leadership skill set and that skill set to run your team, that strategic outlook skill set, as well as focusing on how you're growing in virtue and how you're growing and healing as a human being, because all of that then supports your leadership. So, and then building that in with that community of sharing. So if this is something that you're interested in, I want to get people's interest. I want to get some feedback from it. So I would love to hear what you're looking for in community. So what is that intentional community that you would love to have? Because again, that leadership position, that business owner entrepreneurship is so lonely that we need one another. They say it takes a village to raise a family. It takes a village to raise a business as well. So what do you need in your village? What are you missing? And how can we, as the listeners and producers and guests of this podcast, what can we do to support and be part of other people's villages? And with this, newfangled, stretched out world of the internet, we can do that in a global sense. And we can find those people that we need, those intentional people that want to be joiners and want to be selective about who is in their community. Then we can come together and we can support one another And what that's going to do for us is give greater benefit to our business, greater benefit to ourselves as we grow in virtue, and greater benefit to our families, because if our businesses are thriving, we're supporting more, but we're also able to come home and be there and be present for them. So if this is something that you're interested in, I want you to reach out. I'll throw a link in the show notes to just shoot me a message, put your name on the wait list, and, give me some feedback of what you want. So we'll throw all that down into the show notes so you can reach out and give me that feedback. If you're not looking at those or the show notes, you can always hop to my website, KristinaSchmitt.ca. There's some contact forms right on there, and you can just toss things into there and I'll get back to you. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please like it, share it with a friend, join a friend and listen to it, and join a community and find a community around you or globally. And I will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.